Hi, I'm Kevin Bacon, and this is my last meal.
Every person has exactly two things in common. We all gotta eat and we're all gonna die. Today's guest has starred in Footloose, A Few Good Men, The River Wild, and his new show, The Bondsman, is out now on Amazon Prime Video. But who are we kidding? We all know him from the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia's production of The Sound of Music. Kevin Bacon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you've worked with a lot of great directors in your career. You got Rob Reiner, Oliver Stone, Barry Levinson.
Yeah.
What did you learn from your first director, the Reverend Dr. Victor H. Carpenter?
Well, listen, I mean, the truth is the Victor Carpenter, my mother went to the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia. This minister really liked the idea of using theater during his sermons, and was really my first acting experience, so I appreciate that from him.
Yeah, do you think that actually kind of like set the tone and like allowed you to understand what it meant to be on set? Like you had a leg up from the Unitarian Church's theater program.
I mean, I think I did. I mean, the idea of having to learn lines, and we did a production of The Innocents. It's like a horror kind of thing, like a creepy kind of thing in a house. I didn't remember what it was about, but I played one of the little kids in it, and we did a couple of performances of it in the basement of the church.
Have you thought about your last meal before?
I haven't, not before this.
Not at all. Did you learn anything about yourself when you were deciding what was on the menu?
I love food. I love cooking. I love the ritual of eating. When our kids were children, we didn't have a lot of rules, okay? But our hard and fast rule was that we would all have dinner together.
How often do you think about death in general?
I've always been super driven and always been really like no rear view, just charging pedal to the metal down whatever is going to be in front of me. And, you know, am I in a different gear as I get older? I would say, if anything, I've sped up in terms of that. You know, I think I almost work harder now than I ever have, and maybe it has something to do with, you know, thinking about mortality. But I have said to my family and to my friends, like, I'm good. Like if I go now, I'm not going with a lot of regret, you know.
At this point, you're playing with house money. You've done all the things. You're eating cheesesteaks with strangers on YouTube, killing demons.
Yes.
I think you've lived a good life. You ready to get to course number one?
Oh, yeah, man.
Let's do it. Kevin, for the first course of your final meal on this earth, RIP, we have the wood-fired pizza. Now, this is a 3-day high hydration fermented Neapolitan dough. We got some San Marzano tomatoes on it, a little bit of mozzarella di bufala, garnished with fresh olive oil, cooked at about 900 degrees with some fresh basil on top of there. Then we have the grilled broccoli rabe, just casually sauteed in a little bit of olive oil and garlic. And then, of course, these spicy fish tacos. You got some grilled rockfish right here, blackened fresh jalapenos, chiles toreados on the side, because I know you like it spicy, and of course, a nice French Riesling to go along with it. May I pour you a glass?
You may, yes. Boy, this is just a feast for the eyes already.
And you have curated it, and I thank you, because I don't think I've ever seen this combination of foods together before. So cheers for that, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me. Tell me about the pizza, because I have seen you cook pizza on your Instagram.
Yes.
And sometimes the toppings are not exactly in vogue. The salmon pizza was one that did stick out to me.
Yes, yeah.
But you're quite the avid pizza cook.
You know, there's a lot of discussions about, you know, the dough and the rising, and I don't have a wood-burning pizza oven, which of course is 900 degrees. That's amazing. Oh, yeah.
Do you have any specific memories of eating at the Pizza Factory in Lone Pine, California while shooting Tremors?
Their motto was, we toss them, they're awesome.
Were they awesome?
As far as I remember. Yeah, the thing was is that there weren't any options in town.
Yeah.
We were either cooking, which we, you know, did a lot of.
They tossed them, and even if they weren't awesome, you were gonna eat them.
Yes, right. But they were good. I remember it being really good. And you know, well, there's not that many options, and the crew was all kind of staying in town around at different, you know, motels and stuff. There's definitely a bonding, hanging out thing that happens there. It was great. I love making that movie.
Well, please eat some broccoli, Rob.
I will, man.
And tell me about this. I associate this with the Philly roast pork sandwich. I know you don't.
I don't
pork.
I don't know that one. I don't associate broccoli rabe with that. Yeah, I don't even know how we sort of got into the broccoli rabe thing, but it's been such a staple for us.
Oh.
I'm guessing that it's blanched before you saute it.
You guessed correctly.
Thank you. Sometimes we don't actually go through that process, and if we're kind of in a hurry, but it's better when you do.
Does yours turn out like a little bit browner and darker?
Yes.
Just hitting in the hot oil? Yeah. So it's the blanching and shocking that actually preserves the chlorophyll. Mm-hmm. I also don't do this when I'm cooking at home. I cook rough and dirty, and I'm just throwing stuff in the pan.
Yeah. I'm a super, no measuring type cook.
There's a lot of cooks that liken being a chef to being like a jazz musician. It's just kind of constant improv and things are moving. You, as a musician who's put out 12 albums, do you see any of the similarities in the creative process?
Yeah, I do. I think let me put it this way. There's a music to me, to pretty much everything that I do. I hear sort of like rhythm and music, all the time. It's always in my head. I'm trying to get to sleep. If I'm counting sheep, it's doom, taka, doom, sheep. You know what I mean?
I think you have an arrhythmia.
Is that what it is? Maybe, yeah. And so I think there's a rhythm to chopping, and I find that in improvising things, things just coming to you, and
Dig into the fish tacos. Tell me about it.
These look incredible. Let me just say, this white sauce is so important to me.
Gotta have the crema on the fish.
In a fish taco.
Are you hot sauce in the first bite or no? You gotta try it without it.
I want to try it without. That is banging.
Fair
Oh my God. I am so jealous of this fish taco. I really am. I love the super razor blade thin sliced jalapenos.
I'll take one of those. Hell yeah. I want to ask you about your new show, The Bondsman. Rolls.
Speaking of going to hell.
Yeah, seriously, we're
hot.
sending it there. You just go whole thing, no questions asked? God, you're hardcore.
Oh.
You're known for doing a lot of research for your roles. Oh, it's hitting me. Kevin, you enrolled yourself in a Provo, Utah high school when you were 24 years old. You rode in the Vomit Comet.
Yes.
How much research did you do to play a demon hunter?
Are you asking if I actually went to hell?
Yes.
This would be an example of something where I really just had to use my imagination.
There is a non-zero chance that you have killed a demon in your own life. When you destroyed the haunted farmhouse that you bought, and you were even trying to take things out of there. So there's a chance that you accidentally sort of did that. Now this is the full circle moment, and maybe you are currently in hell with me right now.
Could be.
Yeah.
It wasn't my choice, believe me. It was the seller who was not willing to sell this place unless I tore the house down because he believed that it was possessed. And he had somebody to come by and rid the house of demons, but I guess he thought that it didn't work or something like that,
Yeah.
or like he'd get the best deal. His concern, because he lived across the road, was that if we lived in this house, we would become possessed. Then the energy or our monsters would come across the road and kill him. And honestly, it was a terrible thing to have to do because I love architecture, and I certainly like, and probably like an 1860 Victorian farmhouse. I mean, it was in total disrepair.
Yeah, that is the type of house that gets haunted. You're correct.
Yes.
100%.
Right.
The thing I didn't expect about The Bondsman, it's got a lot of humor, it's got a lot of heart. It also has a lot of Kevin Bacon playing the guitar, which I think is really rad. How cool is it for you to be able to marry those two passions in The Bondsman?
Really cool. I really avoid it. Or let's put it this way. It's not a plus for me if somebody comes to me with a script that says, here's a script and you also get to play. I've always tried to keep those two things separate just because I kind of feel like I don't want to cheapen either one by saying, hey,
It's like the guy with the guitar at a house party,
Exactly.
It's like, maybe just leave it.
But in The Bondsman, it was very specifically a character who had this band with his ex-wife. We then cast Jennifer Nettles as Mary Ann, who is my ex-wife. And Jenna's a great, amazing singer and a great songwriter. I asked her about writing together, and in our first meeting, we wrote a song, which we really loved. We took it to producers. It got rejected. They said, but it's a good song, but the song was called Hell and Back. And so it was a little too on the nose.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis like the show. So we wrote more, and I wrote some by myself, and I wrote one with my brother. And what was really fun about the writing part of this was that I got to write from that character's point of view, and even that character's point of view as a young man, because some of the songs that we were writing were about their relationship when they first got together.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? As a songwriter, it's just kind of cool to have those rules. You know what I mean? You're not Kev. You're not writing.
It's the constraint that actually breeds the creativity out.
Exactly. It's a constraint that breeds creativity. So I had a blast. We wrote a bunch. 3 songs of ours are in the show. One and another one was a cover that I suggested, and Jennifer came up with a great arrangement of it, and so it was fun to do the music for the show. I really enjoyed it. But my character has broken 3 fingers, so I got 3 broken hands. And I'm supposed to 3 fingers. I'm supposed to play the guitar. So I was like, fellas, I don't really know how this is gonna work. Like, how am I gonna do it? And I went, well, wait a second. If I have this finger, I could play slide, and I sort of envisioned it as a kind of open tuning slide part.
Yeah.
And just using one finger, because this hand was fine.
I did not realize that your injury continuity actually stayed during that song, and that is the Kevin Bacon level of detail.
I was definitely not going to all of a sudden have 3 broken fingers and be able to play the guitar normally.
Kevin, for course number 2, we got the Philly cheesesteak. We got the Cooper Sharp cheese that we imported from Philly. It sounds fancier than it is. It is just white American. It's the best cheesesteak cheese. We've shaved the ribeye super, super thin, chopped it up simply with just a little bit of onion, salt, and pepper, wrapped it in the foil. I think architecture is important to let it steam. And then we have 2 great hot peppers of Philadelphia. We have the Italian long hots and the cherry peppers over here to place on it as you like. Oh, and then of course a hoppy IPA. This is from Ogopogo Brewery.
Ogopogo, cheers.
Cheers, man. Cheesesteak and a beer, there's nothing better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, you know, it's a little bit of a known thing, but I grew up on these, obviously.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Well, this looks incredible. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the squish.
It's a squish. I mean, it's a lot about the bun, right? I mean, that's really like a big thing. The deli in our neighborhood, they didn't do steaks because it was more of like a delicatessen. There was another, it was actually a drugstore on the corner that had a counter, you know, like the old drugstores did, where you could get steaks and hamburgers and stuff. But the deli is where you'd go for sandwiches. And they did something that I'd never seen, but I assumed that everybody did, which is steam the rye bread.
Yes.
They had a giant steamer, and you'd order your sandwich, and they'd put the rye bread that wasn't toasted. It was boom, steam flying around. That's how they made it. Nobody does that anymore.
Those little intangibles, those are like the important things that make food really special and memorable.
That's good.
You referenced minute steaks in your song with the Bacon Brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you referenced minute steaks in the Philly thing, and I was wondering if you were pro steak 'em or anti steak 'em, because Philadelphians get really into the idea of a minute steak.
Yeah, I just always thought that was what you ate. This is the only steak I ate when I was a kid.
I wanted to talk about your dad, Edmund Bacon. He's known as the father of modern Philadelphia, and he was a city planner that was so influential that he ended up on the cover of Time magazine in 1964.
I did, yeah.
You said that a lot of your motivations from a young age were to be more famous than him. Why did you have that competitive edge?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think that I was really just driven. When I was a little kid, my earliest memories were just to be seen, and I just had a drive to either create things or get someplace, even if I didn't know exactly what that was. But then my father, I started to realize, which was because he made me realize it, that he was well known, and that, you know, that people would stop him on the street and he really dug it. It's not like he was like embarrassed by it or anything. He was like, yeah, hey, how you doing? He like ate it up, right? He was on the cover of Time magazine.
That's nuts, and especially in '64 when Time was like the only magazine. It was the magazine.
I was going to ask you if you knew what the year was. So I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I remember him coming home, not with one Time magazine, but like a giant stack of them. And years later, he had an office upstairs in our house, and I remember going up there and seeing that there was still a box of like undelivered Time magazines, or just like there was like 50 of them. And you know, he was totally into it.
Yeah.
I've kind of joked that I, wanted to kick his ass. Every boy wants to kick his father's ass in some way, but I don't know if that was really it so much as I think it was part. I think I had that kind of drive, but I think that certainly it was nurtured by who he was.
It's interesting because he saved every single piece of press clipping, etc. And I know you said that you do the exact opposite.
I just don't save stuff.
How do you deal with knowing that you had that competitiveness against your own father's fame in a way? How do you deal with that with your own children who, you have one child who's a musician, the other who is an actor, both of your kind of two biggest passions. You just need a third adopted son who's a chef. Applications. But how did that inform your own parenting style?
I guess I really tried my best to do the opposite in that way, because you find that, of course, you're going to think about your own parenting, like how you were parented when you start to parent, and maybe depending on how your parents are, when your child was born, they're going to have opinions about it. And I guess for me, it was like I want to take the things that were great, of which there were many, and when it came to the promoting my own fame and taking my kids to premieres and making them watch my movies and showing them, an article in the paper, we really didn't do that. We knew how weird this life was.
Yeah.
There's always a chance that you're going to walk out of the house and somebody is going to know who you are or look at you or have some kind of point of view about you from a piece of work that you've done. When it came to the kids, we were kind of like, is there a way to just buffer them from that a little bit? Because they didn't choose it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I keep telling them, it had to have been hard for you. Please tell me. I want to know. Like sit with your therapist and talk about it. And it's okay. You can get mad at me about, this life that you were, and they will not. They just will not go there. They will not acknowledge that there was anything that was difficult about having.
Well, it's more interesting that you're fishing so hard for it.
I know.
What do you think? What do you think you want to hear from them when you're saying that?
I guess I mean, listen. It's not like I want to get beaten up, but I I want to, like anything else, and I want to keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
And if somebody, had a hard time around something, then I would just want to know.
Yeah, it's interesting as I think about having kids and what kind of father I want to be. I'm like, all right, whatever your dad did do the opposite of that. And then I think about my kids. No matter how hard I try, are going to go do the opposite of that. It just feels like the way the political pendulum swings of blue to red to blue to red. How do you sort of stop that general cycle, or are we just all doomed to repeat ourselves?
I would think about my father. I would talk to him about his father, okay? When he would describe like what his childhood was, there was a part of me that would say, I really don't blame you for being who you are.
Of course, yeah.
He made big changes. He was raised in a structured Quaker existence. Like they called each other thee and thy.
Damn.
When we would go and visit, we all of a sudden had to start calling each other thee and thy. I was like, this is crazy. And nobody really explained it to me as a young man, But when I really started thinking about that, I was like, wow, okay. So he's definitely more relaxed than they were,
Yeah. So you're all just trying to do a little bit better than the generation before you.
I think
hope
so.
That train continues.
I think so. And on the flip side of it, also, be able to acknowledge and, appreciate the things that they did do well.
Yeah.
The fact that I wanted to be an actor, that I was a hippie and a drug user and living a completely different lifestyle than they did, and leaving home at 17 and all those things. They were so supportive of it.
Yeah.
There was none of them say, you God damn it, you can't do that. They never did that. And so, that was something that was great that I tried to continue.
Kevin, for course number 3 of your final meal, we have just a selection from the restaurant All Time Out in Los Feliz. We have the signature French toast here. We got their Wagyu burger, and then we just have the good-ass salad. This is simply listed as good-ass salad, and then a suggestion of what might be in it based on what's in the farmer's market. So here we go.
This is good stuff. I love that joint. It's kind of our neighborhood joint when we're out here in LA, and it's just always delicious. In fact, I'm having dinner there tonight.
You should just take this burger back and just go, this is cold. Of course, we have a Barolo too. This
Oh,
is,
excellent.
one of
All
my
right.
favorite wines out of Italy. The tasting notes you should get are tar, roses, and cigarettes. And I am not kidding.
Tar, roses, and cigarettes.
Ah, man. The Guns N' Roses cover band you didn't know you needed.
Tar, roses, and cigarettes. Boy, that is a rock and roll glass of wine.
Goddamn right it is.
Oh, hell yeah.
You seem to have what I can only describe as a sicko's palate. Like, you seem to love really intense flavors.
I do. Does it mean that my taste buds have just been burned out from, hey, give me hot peppers and onions?
No, I think you wanting hot peppers and onions constantly is a sign that you're somebody who enjoys the intensity of experience and, like, honestly isn't afraid of things. If you really like bitter flavors, I think there is a correlation to being a sociopath, but you're probably fine.
Okay, that's that's funny. You know, I've become more sociopathic because over time, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you don't want frisee, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's happened to me is that, and it's probably because of this, I've gotten less attracted to sweet things and more attracted to like bitter or salty or spicy deliciousness.
You do tend to appreciate more bitter things as you're an adult, but it is that chasing of intensity, which I think is, I don't know, interesting thing. It seems like you've put yourself in a lot of intense situations.
I love,
Oh, damn.
so good. I love intense roles. I love challenges that are physical, emotional, and I think it's a counterpoint to, I like stability in my personal life. And the food, I want it to be, fire.
Yeah. There's this interesting point in your life where you buy a farm and you intend to move there, and you said you have this self-image of being like the lonely farmer with a dog.
I did, yeah.
It's very self-mythologizing, almost. I know we've only known each other for an hour, but almost in a way that seems like your dad kind of mythologized himself in a way. What was it about being a lonely farmer with a dog that was appealing?
I had gone through the intensity of, you know, kind of Footloose and, you know, exploding onto a stardom, and plus I'd been in a relationship that was ending, and, you know, I just thought to myself, I'll just be a guy with a dog and live alone. I don't need anything. I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
It's corny. I got a song called Chop Wood, Carry Water, but I like to chop wood and carry water. While I grew up as a city kid, I had developed this like kind of love of horses and had this idea of being able to be on horseback and kind of a cowboy sort of mentality, but I didn't live
There's
out
like a
west.
very obvious literary metaphor with the horses, right? And like freedom, and you being constrained by this idea of fame when you thought it would give you the opposite.
I think if I really had taken the story all the way, it would have been Wyoming, you know, but instead I was in northwestern Connecticut, and my wife folded into that, and we lived in this little place, and I chopped wood, and when we weren't working, you know, she brought a dog into the mix, so it was us and Jane and Tybalt, and then eventually, after quite a few years, she said, "This is horrible. Like, I want to like go out to lunch.
Yeah.
I want to go to the movies or the theater." And she's a New Yorker. She's born and raised in Manhattan. So it's the biggest fight we've ever had in our lives. She said, "We need to buy an apartment in New York where all of us can live." And I was like, how are we going to afford to do that?
Is this post Footloose, pre Tremors?
Yes. Yes, exactly. And it was the greatest thing we ever did. She was so right. Raising kids in Manhattan was the best idea. We ultimately figured out a way to, you know, for the apartment, of course. It was fine. I did get work. All these things that, you know, I was afraid of not happening happened. And she was right. I'm you know, right again.
Chalk one on the board for Kyra. She directed you in a movie called Space Oddity. It seems like one of the central theses of the film was this idea of somebody trying to sort of run away, live this life of solitude, and then ultimately realize that almost the pinnacle of human experience is just being connected with others right here on Earth. Is that something that Kyra's been trying to like drill in you your whole life? Do you still try and like kind of find yourself pulling away from that? Because I empathize with that.
Yeah. I mean, She's someone that exists on a much more spiritual and heartfelt plane than I do. I'm very male, but for lack of a better word, you know what I mean?
Have you heard of the black cat golden retriever dichotomy in relationships?
No.
Say every relationship is made up of a black cat and a golden retriever. There's the one who's kind of like aloof and a little bit shady and constantly trying to pull away, and then there's the other one that's just sort of loving. Do you think you and Kyra fall into that?
Oh, I've had a black cat. Yes, I had a black cat named Spencer, alley cat. Yeah, and Kyra's dog Tybalt was a golden retriever, although he was a lunatic.
Can I serve you up some French toast?
Yeah, man, bring it on.
We're at our room, but this is your last meal, man. No holding back. Thank you for curating this, man. This rips. Seems like both your parents and now Kyra in your life have this strong urge to like leave the world better than they found it. I know your mother did activism with prisons and like early education. Do you think that's something that's been heavily instilled in you from the outside or something you've always had inside you?
I might have always had it inside me, but I didn't know it for a long time. I think almost as a point of rebellion. I can't speak for all children or all women, but being a man and having a mother, a boy needs to find some sort of rebellion from his mother.
Yeah.
That is a rite of passage that needs to happen. My first point of rebellion, I think, was to kind of give up an activism or social conscious point of view because that was so important to her.
Yeah.
One of my very first paid acting jobs was almost like a training film for ROTC. Okay, and my mother was a really, really strong anti-war activist. And she said, "You can't do that." And I said, "Yeah, but they're gonna pay me, $200 or something."
Yeah.
And she said, "But you can't do it." I said, "But I'm doing it." And she didn't speak to me.
You said you were like an early teen when you did this?
Yeah, I was probably about 14 or 15.
Damn.
And she just stopped speaking to me for like a week. She was furious, but it was an important thing that I had to kind of go through.
Sure.
So when I left home at 17, for years and years and years, I didn't really read the paper,
Yeah.
I read Variety or Backstage. Getting married and seeing Kyra's point of view about things and having children, that sort of turned me to say, bro, you gotta step outside of yourself, once in a while and start to look at injustice, the environment. And to that end, I realized that was very much my mother's voice.
Kevin, for your final course of your final meal on this earth, we have the banana cake with chocolate frosting. We chose to do a little double layered cake with some fresh toasted hazelnuts on top. And then I actually do have a little bit of a surprise. I have a deep connection to this food. I wanted to bring out the tasty cake, Philly's finest peanut butter candy cake.
I don't know if you know, but this is my favorite tasty cake.
I actually did not know that.
You didn't know that, yeah.
It is my dad's favorite. And so that's why I got
definitely
it.
scored with these. Oh, that's a little bit of history, man. Yeah.
What's the deal with the banana cake?
The first time anybody ever asked me, what do you want your birthday cake to be? That's what I said. I don't know where I just kind of came to it, but I just like bananas, chocolate. That's going to work. And it does. Let's face it, that's
It's
pretty
fitting
good.
that you have a birthday cake and then you also have like sort of your mock death day cake here. I think
Yes.
it's a great full circle moment.
Yeah.
I want to ask about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon game because you're one of the people that is sort of an example of a pre-internet meme in a way.
Oh yeah, I was way ahead of my time.
You like legitimately were though. But as anybody knows, like the subject of memes, it's kind of this weird experience where it's almost like you no longer own your name because everybody knows it for a weird reason. What were your emotions about that at the time?
I didn't like it.
What are your emotions about it now?
I like it now. I mean, it's fun.
Why didn't
I
you
mean-
like it at the time though?
At the time, I was probably having, imposter's, syndrome, which was, actors famously talk about that, and I certainly suffer from it as well. And the 6 degrees thing was like, he's not that good, but he's been in a lot of movies. That's the way I perceived it. Can you believe that Kevin Bacon can be connected to Laurence Olivier? Can you believe that Kevin Bacon could be connected to Meryl Streep or, whatever? That's what went through my head. Probably not based on anybody doing that, other than people found it funny. Like, that's funny. Like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Right? Then it didn't go away. I mean, that's really
Sure.
That's really the truth of it. 6degrees.org was something that I started in 2007, which was a way to take the silliness of that game and try to turn it into something positive.
Yeah.
It continues to be, an important part of my life, and it's what my life is. And all I can do is try to do good work and try to be a decent person.
Yeah, it's awesome though, because there is such a powerful metaphor in that we are all so connected in ways that we didn't see before, and then now to use that with 6degrees.org to like spur people into doing good things.
Well, I like you think very metaphorically, which I think is super cool. No, I really do. You've frequently mentioned in the course of this meal, you see things as metaphors or representational of bigger kind of ideas, and I think that's a good way to oftentimes look at the world. And I don't think I do that enough. If you take me out of it, it is an important concept. Honestly, I honestly really believe that. So the first time we meet, what did you say to me? Go Birds, right? This is what people do. We try to find some sort of human connection. I mean, that's just what people are drawn to. So often we are really focused on the things that separate us, right? Yeah. And I think that the idea of remembering that we're all riding the same, planet, try to hold on to that idea is actually a positive thing.
Yeah.
Take Kevin Bacon out of it.
I will say, the first time I heard the name Kevin Bacon was probably I was like 7 years old on the schoolyard, and somebody said 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and I said, "Who's Kevin Bacon?" They said, "I don't know. I just heard my parents say it." And then I went home and I asked my dad, "Who's Kevin Bacon?" And he said, "You're 7 years old. I haven't showed you Animal House yet." And I said, "No." And then we watched Hollow Man in theaters, and I had nightmares.
Did you see Animal House?
I did.
There were boobs in that.
There were so many boobs. Divorced dad, freedom, man.
That would have been my dream that my dad would have showed me Animal House.
You wrote a song about your dad being dead. It's called Corona Tune.
Oh yeah.
Brothers, there's a really heartbreaking line where it's, I believe when you're gone, and I take comfort that you can't see what's going on about your parents have passed away. What inspired you to write those lyrics?
The pandemic, the state of the world. Yeah, a lot of political stuff going on that, a move backwards that would have been extremely upsetting to my mother and also to my father. Also just a lack of humanity and care for people that have less than you do, and also just the pandemic and I wrote it was a full. I mean, it's called Corona Tune, not because I was drinking Corona.
I thought the beer company actually. I thought they paid for it.
No,
they're like, Kevin, write about your dead parents.
No, I hadn't even thought of that.
Drink Corona.
Yeah.
You looking back at your parents being somewhat glad, obviously tongue in cheek, that they're gone in a time like today. What do you hope for your kids' future and their kids' future? I'm
gonna try to stay optimistic. I feel like there's a thing certainly in when it comes to alcoholism and drug addiction where you got to hit rock bottom to sort of climb your way out of it. And I think maybe I feel like we're a little bit getting close to that in terms of the planet, the world, the country. That definitely pushes you to having a lack of optimism. But on the other hand, I want to stay hopeful that there will be a place for them to live and be able to breathe clean air and drink clean water and feel okay about whatever, life and children. And, I'm somebody who wakes up in the morning and I read the paper. I try to get my distress sort of done with as much as I can at the beginning of the day, and then continue like most human beings do to try to live their lives and chop wood and carry water.
Chop wood and carry water. You want to get matching tattoos after this?
Sure.
I'm in. What do you think happens when you die?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah. Like I said in the song, when you're gone, you're gone. That's my point of view. My feeling about it is that this is it, and I want it to be good,
Well, damn, you ready to get in the lightning round?
Yeah.
What song do you want to be played at your funeral?
Maybe In Spite of Ourselves, John Prine.
Who's a better audience for your music, your goats or an LA theater crowd on a Tuesday night?
Oh, definitely my goats.
Play good goat shows. Who's one former co-star that you'd love to act with again?
Well, I'm going to say Kyra Sedgwick, and if she was not available, I guess probably Meryl Streep.
Do you have her agent's number, Kyra?
I don't know.
We can see if we can. I think I've
No. See if you can get her agents on the phone.
What's your biggest fear?
This is terrible, but I've gotten so addicted to naps that I'm afraid I'm not going to.
You're onto the hard shit, huh?
I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to fit in a nap. It's and it depends on how long this lightning round goes, because I'm already feeling threatened by the fact that I might not be able to get my 10, and they're only 10 minutes long. So
we got a couch up in the loft we can put you up in. Finally, Kevin, are you happy?
I am happy. I'm a happy man. I really am.
Kevin, you are an absolute mensch. I cannot thank you enough. If you want to deliver your last words to that camera right there.
Hey, banana cake with chocolate frosting. Come on, give it a shot.
Kevin Bacon, I cannot thank you enough, man. This is really the time of my life. And everyone, make sure you check out The Bondsman on Amazon Prime Video. You got anything else to plug?
There's so many things. Well, Sirens goes on Netflix in May. Yeah, miniseries, yeah.
Stream some Contra Cult Collective, man.
Yeah,
You want to go to a
there
show
you
together?
go.
You want to get in the pit, mix it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Get your tickets to Survive the Mythical Kitchen now to see which chef will walk away with the ultimate prize on Thursday, April 3rd. MythicalKitchenLive.com.